watch our show. Bet River sponsors. It's time to start, enjoy the show. Give me your picks, give me your insights. I want the bets from Betting Weekly, because we win. That is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bird, don't give us a stink eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show. Bet River sponsors. It's time to start, enjoy the show.
Welcome along to Betting Weekly Live. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, alongside me, as you can see, Rory Barlow. On the agenda today, we are talking Champions League qualifiers, dip into the conference qualifiers as well, or at least one of them. A little bit of Brazilian action, and because Rory's on the show, a sneak peek of what might happen, early thoughts on the futures when it comes to La Liga, title race, and top four prices to get some early thoughts, not necessarily picks. From Rory. Rory, how are you? How's your summer so far? We're still a couple of weeks away, aren't we, from the start of the La Liga season, but things ramping up, I would have thought, in Spain a little bit.
Yeah, I'm already on the hamster wheel, Dan. There was a La Liga event yesterday to welcome the promoted clubs from Segunda up to the top division. So yeah, La Liga started its planning, its all that kind of thing. So yeah, we're into the hamster wheel now, I think. But no games to keep me up late at night. As we know in Spain, everything's a late kickoff. Not in the US, thankfully, for all of our viewers, but for us, it tends to go on to about 11, half 11 in August because of the hot temperatures.
Is Spain in mourning a little bit after the Women's Euros defeat to England? Obviously, you were very, very pleased about, no doubt, Rory, as a Scot. I mean, Spain dominated the game, but England just found a way over the course of the tournament, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think fair play to England because they absolutely thought they were through that. Yeah, I do have to give Serena Wiegmann her dues and Lucy Bronze and Chloe Kelly for fighting through all of that. But yeah, I think Spain very much there's disappointment. It's a little bit of shock. I think people were a bit surprised by the results, and certainly, I don't know. I've been fairly critical, but also in general. Montse Tomé, the Spain coach, is under a bit of pressure now, and there's a feeling that can you sack a manager for getting to a final and losing? It's a bit of a kind of a debate, but also everything that isn't winning with this Spain side right now feels like a bit of a failure. So yeah, I think that's where the Spain Federation have to sort through the mess now.
Very good day to one and all, everybody who's joining us. Byron, who just before we came on air is already in the message board saying that he can't really watch today because he's heading to sign a contract on a plot of land, I presume, to build 4 houses in South Jersey. So I wish you well with that, Byron. I think you are listening in. Mike talking about the Barnet game, not one that we're covering. I know Nigel talked about Barnet. I think a lot of people are looking at Barnet on the handicap for League Two futures after a really good season in the National League, and hopefully plenty of you were following Nigel yesterday because he had a stellar day yesterday on the show. Really good night for Mr. Seeley. An awful lot of winners. Ruzic on the money line and on the overs. Bouchard on the money line and in the first set and on the overs. Carlos Baena a minus money selection as well. Winners galore from Nigel, and Nigel is on the tennis show a little bit later on today, so hopefully more winners from Nigel to come. Plenty of winners and 1 or 2 losers crept in as well. We usually get the sort of betting report from our friends at Bet Rivers, and usually they list an awful lot of winners, but there were some chunky losers, unfortunately, for bettors who have got in the Copa America Feminine quite heavily. $10,000 play on Argentina Colombia live over 2.5 first half corners, which was a loser, as was a $10,000 play on the Chile Paraguay over 11.5 match corners, which was a loser. And then we had another loser on the corners in the Chile Paraguay game, live over 3.5 in the first half for 9,600. So the big corner hitter in the Copa America feminine, unfortunately, was leaving it behind the counter, which is something that we don't like to see as bettors. Also in the tennis, plenty of winners there. Ethan Quinn set one on the money line, -149 against Yoshihito Nishioka was a winner, $16,000 play at -149. And Gigante live against Koric, a winner at $10,000 play at -143. So some nice winners on the tennis, as well as Nigel's winners that hopefully came your way. And as we mentioned, Mr. Seeley will be with us a little bit later on for the tennis show. What else have we got here? Duncan says, afternoon, guys. Stephen from says, morning, guys. Hey, Byron, hope all is well. Stephen from says, anyone see these games on TV in the US? All I have, North American League Cup with Pachuca, Barnet Newport. No Champions League on TV. Well, it's on the app. It's streamed on the BetRivers app, Steve. If you have got an account on the app, on the betrivers.com. We're going to start with the Champions League qualifiers. Never easy, Rory, when it comes to these games. Generally, if bettors have been getting involved, under 2.5 goals has been a winning trend so far. We've had 43 games in the Champions League qualifiers. Under 2.5, under 3.5, both teams to score no. If you bet all those markets blindly in every single game so far, you will be making a profit. But generally, when it's unders, it means that bettors aren't winning. Let's hope we can turn one or two in our favour today. So we have got 4 games that we're going to take a look at, because one has just got underway at 4 p.m, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. in the UK. So we're going to ignore that one. We're going to kick off our thoughts here with the game between Drita and Copenhagen. Copenhagen won the first leg, Rory, 2-0 in Denmark. We actually suggested under 3.5 goals was a good play in that game. It did cash, but we might have got a little bit lucky, because the expected goals figures for these two teams were 3.03 for Copenhagen and 0.46 for Drita. So potentially there should have been at least one more goal in that game, but it cashed nonetheless. Copenhagen are 2 wins from 2 in the Danish Super League and have netted at least twice in all 3 games in all competitions so far this season. I think this is a game that Copenhagen are going to control fairly comfortably. I wouldn't really want to back them at -250. Got one or two thoughts on this one, Rory, but what's your sort of general gist when it comes to this return game with Copenhagen firmly in the driving seat, 2 to the good after the first leg?
Yeah, I think in general for this entire Champions League round, for these early kind of games this season, you're operating in kind of a little bit more unknown territory. So that means both the bookmakers and ourselves are operating with less information. It's a new season, new players, new managers, all of that to kind of mix into the pot. So on the one hand, you get kind of better prices because nobody's quite sure what's going to happen, and so you can get some good deals in there. On the other hand, you're obviously playing with a little bit more risk in that sense. I think with this game, Copenhagen, I mean, like you said, they've scored twice in each of their games. I think they've been pretty free scoring so far. They had a big win as well in the Super League. And I like this result to kind of repeat itself, if not go kind of a similar way. I think Drita, Kosvin's side, they beat Differdanger from Luxembourg in the previous round. So you can't really take too much off that either. And yeah, if you look at the stats from that game as well, 34% possession for Drita, 16 shots to 8 for Copenhagen. It was 2 penalties. So in that sense, Copenhagen did get a little bit fortunate, and that's obviously going to swing that XG that you mentioned. So there's something to take in mind there. But I think the fact that it's 2-0 and I think the fact it's not 3-4-0 will make Copenhagen take this game a little bit more seriously than they might have done if it was 4-5-0 and they could just kind of send the kids out there. So yeah, I think, well, the pick I'm going for, Dan, is minus 1.5 on the Asian handicap. That was at plus 118 when I last checked. So yeah, I think Copenhagen's put in a serious, not going to kind of blow them out the water performance, but I think the Kosvins will fight hard. They generally do. But I like Copenhagen to be at least 2 goals up in this game.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I think that 2-0 scoreline just about keeps them honest. You know, as you say, if it was 3 or 4, you could see maybe something like a 0-0 or a 1-0 Copenhagen. But I think they will just need to put the foot to the floor a little bit here. Effie, who's usually pretty counterintuitive with things like this, he suggested Drita at +1 might be a play. Look, I sort of get that to a certain extent, but the game state means that for Copenhagen, I just don't think it's done. I mean, I don't mind Copenhagen to nil. I don't mind Copenhagen just to keep a clean sheet, which is -103. So that I'll take a 0-0, even a 1-0. Clean sheets in 3 of the last 6 in away qualifiers in Europe, but 2 of those 6 games coming up against Baník and Sparta Prague are 2 pretty decent teams and certainly better quality than Drita. I think they can keep Drita out today. And for Drita, it's not a complete disaster if they drop out. They're never going to be expected to go through to the Champions League group stages. They will drop into Europa League qualifying 3 if they lose. So I don't think it's a complete disaster. It's not as if they're going to go hell for leather here looking to try and overturn it. And I think Copenhagen are just a better side. I don't mind the handicap line, as you say, they're -1.5. I think I'd just prefer to play Copenhagen to keep a clean sheet at -103 would be my play in this one. In terms of where the money's going, 95% of the money, 96% of the tickets, not surprisingly, on Copenhagen. 52% of the money, 73% of the tickets on over. So in terms of where the cash has been going, it's fairly even between the 2 unders and overs. I think that was because what happened last week, but I tend to think that there might be more goals in this. I think it could easily be another Copenhagen 2-0 success. That would be my way of seeing it. That would certainly serve my purpose and Rory's purpose as well when it comes to the Drita Copenhagen game, which is that's one of the earlier kickoffs today, isn't it? I think that one is at 2 o'clock. Check the kickoff times for these. Eastern, the 2 later ones are the Mostar and Slovan Bratislava games, and Zvezda against Lincoln Red Imps. Next game we can take a look at, though, is the Dynamo Kyiv game against Hamrun Spartans. This one, Rory, played in Poland, obviously. Dynamo Kyiv can't play in their home country at the moment. They are 3-0 up from the first leg away in Malta. And again, for bettors, it's always one of those difficult ones in terms of, do teams take their foot off the gas just a little bit, and do they think, well, we're 3-0 up from the first leg, do we really need to push it here? And usually you'd say no, but just looking back at what Dynamo Kyiv have done in previous qualifying rounds, last season they beat Partizan 6-2 at home and then won 3-0 away. So I can't really see them doing that at home. I mean, they are a significant class above here. Rory, do you see anything from Hamrun to scupper those bettors who are looking maybe to get under the handicap line, or do you think Dynamo Kyiv will be too good and run away with this officially home leg, but leg being played in Poland?
Yeah, I think Dynamo Kyiv are the smart bet here. I mean, Hamrun, they're not kind of the one of the main players in Maltese football. They're not kind of a team that you see regularly in the kind of Champions League qualifiers, so they don't have that kind of experience to fall back on either. So I think this is going to be one-sided. That 3-0 away from home is pretty informative. One of the things to mention, just kind of coming on to what you're saying about those lower goal tallies and we're kind of a little bit used to, is that heat in Eastern and kind of Southern Europe. In Poland, it's hotter. Kosovo, it is hotter as well. So that is a factor to take into account, is the location of these games, whereas normally that's not so much of an issue in European football. But yeah, I just find it hard to see Dynamo Kyiv now at home getting less of a result than they did away from home in this game. I think there is a danger that Yarmolenko or Popov, they get rested. They don't really play in this game. But even so, if you're a Dynamo Kyiv youngster, this is early on in the season, you've still got kind of a bit of a hope of kind of breaking into this side and impressing the manager. So I think there'll be some motivation there to kind of put some past. And if you're an attacking player, this is kind of a bit of a dream fixture, early on, competitive, but still kind of a team that you can really kind of get into your groove against and put a few goals past. So yeah, I like Dynamo Kyiv. I'm going again on the Asian handicap, -2.5, this time at +140 for Dynamo Kyiv. So yeah, I like Dynamo to beat them by 3 goals, basically.
Yeah, that'll do. That will certainly do it for a 2.5 handicap. One goal scorer that I thought was interesting for this game, that people who like to play the anytime goal scorer, you mentioned Yarmolenko, and yeah, he's 35 now. Even if he does start, and he might do, he's not going to finish the game. There's a young striker called Vladislav Vanat, who scored 17 times in the league last season. He's got 43 and 81 since he made his debut. Still just a young striker. Did score in the reverse fixture. Generally plays the full 90. Played more minutes than any other player in the Ukrainian league for Dynamo Kyiv last season. So probably will start, almost certain to finish as well. Scored for the Ukrainian under-21s in the Euros in the summer, so he's kept up his form over the course of the season. Minus 103 to score at any time. All those figures, he's got 21 in his last 38, 43 and 81. You know, you're looking around about even money. Minus 103 seems fair regardless. And then when you take into consideration the opposition, it looks an even better bet, really. They were decent defensively last season in their domestic league, but this is a step up here. We think that Vincenzo Polito might be missing a player that they signed from Italy last season, and a Brazilian defensive midfielder, Eliane, who was part of their team that did so well in Malta last campaign. He's moved on to pastures new. He's playing in Korean football this season. So there's just been a little bit of change around in terms of their defence and defensive midfield, and it might mean that they're not as good. I can't put anyone off Rory's bet, and I think if you're looking for a striker, if they're going to score goals, look to one of their strikers. Vanat, round about minus 103, the last I saw, to score at any time in the match. Money line, no real surprises here. 98% of the money has come on Dynamo Kyiv, and 95% of the tickets as well. Interestingly, and obviously the over and under line is high. It's 3.5. Most of the money is on unders. 84% of the money is on under. 63% of the tickets are on over. I guess the fear for overs backers to a certain extent is, you know, Kyiv get to 3-0 and then think, well, you know, that's it, Rory, for the day. Well, you know, it might be an hour in and they'll just sort of manage the game from there on in and maybe make one or two changes. That's always a danger when you've got a high goal line, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially nowadays with fixture congestion, managers are increasingly more aware of that and less likely to kind of push their teams on to absolutely destroy anyone, really, regardless of kind of the level of their opposition. But yeah, I think I just about like the 3. I think if it was 4, that would come into play for me in more of a way, and I'd be thinking maybe not to swerve that kind of minus 2.5. But yeah, I think they should just have enough. The fact is, Hamrun Spartans are just not quite at the level, and even kind of you look at levels of these kind of sides, I would back kind of Drita maybe to give them a harder game, maybe to keep that goal line a little bit down, but yeah, I don't have much faith in Hamrun, who yeah can maybe prove me wrong. But yes, that Vanat pick, absolute Dan Roebuck special there. I like that a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Well, let's hope so. The last time I put up an anytime goal scorer bet was last Friday. Belgian player called Promise David, who plays for Union Saint-Gilloise, on penalty duty. Obviously, they were awarded a penalty in the first half. Obviously, he missed it, so I'm on a comeback trail. Really here. In terms of the money, how we mentioned them, didn't we? Yeah, a little bit of money on unders, which is a little bit interesting. Now, if you like what you hear on our shows, make sure you sign up to our newsletter, get exclusive tips and free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. bettingweeklystudios.com. You get the newsletter twice a week. We've got the Insider and the newsletter for you Mondays and Fridays. All of the handicappers do contribute. We mentioned what we've got streaming live for you on the app and on the website. 4 Champions League qualifying matches, 3 Conference League matches. Got 1 or 2 friendlies as well. Hull against Sunderland, Valencia against Marseille, which I think, and Rory might be able to tell me otherwise, is that the repeat of the 2002 or 2003 UEFA Cup final? Probably before Rory's born, but we'll have to check that one. Also, Barnet against Barnet.
Testing my knowledge there. I'm really racking my brains.
Barnet Newport. It's a repeat of one of the last UEFA Cup finals, I think. Barnet versus Newport, a League Cup prelim round, and the reason that they're playing a prelim round is because I think there are 9 English teams in European football, so somehow they've got to manage how many teams get through to the third round, because there are more teams joining from the Premier League in the third round rather than the second round. So that's why it's taking place. That is live on the site as well tonight. I tend to think Barnet will win that one. Got a decent striker who's on loan from Manchester United. ATP Toronto, WTA Montreal, also streamlined on the site. Rory and Nigel are going to be talking you through the tennis a little bit later on today. What have we got comments-wise? Not too many comments. Let us know your thoughts on who you're betting when it comes to the Champions League. We've got a couple more games to run through, the next of which is... let's do Zvezda against Lincoln Red Imps first, and then we'll get into the Mostar Bratislava game. Zvezda, or Red Star, as we call them an awful lot in the Western world. This is my best bet of the day for me, Rory. Red Star won 1-0 away from home. They were -2.5 on the Asian handicap. The over and under line was 3.5. So if you looked for Red Star to cover the handicap, you lost. If you looked for them match to go overs, which many did, you lost. I suspect that many unfortunately went for those way. The lines today, the over and under is 4.5, as you can see there, and the Asian handicap is 3, so a 3-0 win for Red Star would only be a push. But the big reason, as I think everybody will know, is the fact that Red Star had a player sent off. So Young-woo was sent off, and Lincoln Red Imps, I say dominated. They had more of the ball, Rory, as I'm probably sure that you know. They created quite a lot of chances, 14 shots all told, but I just tend to think that was their chance. If there was going to be an upset, if they were going to try and beat Red Star over 2 legs, which is extremely difficult for a side like Lincoln Red, they needed to win that first leg. They had the opportunity when Red Star were down to 10 players, but unfortunately they didn't. And I just think at home in Belgrade, this could be a very, very easy win for Zvezda. How do you see it?
Yeah, it's not an easy place to go ever, Belgrade. But yes, I think, again, kind of coming to where that angle for Copenhagen, the fact that Lincoln really gave them a game in the home leg means that Red Star will play in a different way and in a much more serious way than they might have done. And had they won comfortably, I think that goal line as well, just the one goal in that game will have tripped a lot of people up.
Yeah.
Obviously, the red card has a huge impact on that. But yeah, I think this game is one of those that might break down in the second half a little bit, might turn into a bit of a basketball match. Lincoln obviously showed that they could put up a good fight. I think they will take confidence from that. But once the game opens up, if 1 or 2 goals go in Red Star's way or Zvezda, I do think that they will have the capacity to put a few past. I mean, this is a side that not long ago were competing in the Champions League at the very top level, kind of giving really good teams games.
Last season. This is less than a year ago. They put 5 past Stuttgart. They scored 2 against Barcelona. I mean they're minus 5,000 just to win the game. The 1-0 from last week is no reflection of their quality, Rory.
Yes, absolutely. I think, yeah, the 1-0, if anything, has done people a lot of favors because it's going to swing the prices a little bit in your favor if you're looking to make money on this. I think Lincoln don't score in this one for me. I think Zvezda will run away with this eventually. The one I've gone, this is more of a lean than a pick for me. One if you kind of fancy it. I think Zvezda to win to 0 over 1.5 goals in the second half. That's plus 112. So yeah, I think that kind of breakdown in the game. It's hot in Belgrade at this time of year as well. It's Lincoln. I think if their spirit does get broken, then Red Star will be able to capitalize and run away with this. And as you said, a team that can score goals, that often kind of imports kind of good Brazilian talent that hasn't quite made it up the ladder just yet. So yeah, I like Zvezda to get the job done and pretty comfortably in the end.
Little same game parlay from Rory. Win to 0 and over 1.5 second half goals. For me, I'm just going to play. I know it's a big line to cover. It's interesting that Effie has put up Red Star team total over 2.5 goals. I think they'll win this one easy. They've had 2 domestic games this season in the Serbian top flight. They beat Javor 4-0. Not quite sure what that means. 7-1 against OFK Belgrade at the weekend. At least I've heard of OFK Belgrade. The bottom line is both of those teams I would take to beat Lincoln Red Imps. I really would. I mean, Marko Arnautovic has just signed for Red Star Belgrade. Look, he's not made his debut yet. He might not play tonight. He's a real short price favourite to score at any time at minus 235. He wanted to play for Red Star because of his relationship with Sinisa Mihailovic. And he's got his wish to play, and he was playing at Inter last season and made the Champions League final. but they've got some very good players. Krunic was at Milan for a long time. Duarte scored 16 goals in all competitions. He scored in his last 5, so he scored in every single game this season. I know it's on the Bet River site. He's not listed. I've seen him elsewhere to be 2-1 to get 2 or more goals. Katai, a player that I watched in Major League Soccer a few years ago, has been back in Serbian football for a few years. 13 goals from midfield, got 2 at the weekend. He's minus 117 to score at any time. And Dai is listed, but he's been mainly a sub recently, late last season in this campaign. He is minus 112 to score. If we're going big on the score line here, and I think they'll cover an Asian line, it's minus 127 for the minus 3 Asian line. So 3-0 win is a push, 4 or more, and you've won your money. But if we're predicting goals here, I will get with any of those anytime goal scorers. Maybe not Arnautovic, not because he's going to play. He's the shortest price by a street of all of those players listed here. But I just think that given what we've seen from Zvezda at home, surely they will knock over Lincoln Red Imps fairly comfortably. That's the way that I am seeing it. One more to look at in the Champions League. I've not really got too much on this one, Rory. This is Zrinjski Mostar against Slovan Bratislava. Slovan Bratislava won the first leg 4-0, but Zrinjski are favourites to win the return. They failed to get a shot on target or register a shot on target last week, but the tie state, if you like, rather than the game state, dictates the prices a little bit. Slovan Bratislava just don't need to win, but they are the better side. They drew 2-2 at the weekend in their domestic opener, but had all of the ball, most of the shots. They had 20 shots, 74% possession. They should have beaten Tatran. They didn't. Any leans for you in this one?
Yeah, I quite like Slovan, but not. Perhaps I want to give a kind of safety catch for it as well, because this Zrinjski side are a little bit weird. I mean, they beat Virtus 2-1 in the second leg, so Virtus are a team from San Marino. Nobody even offered a price on that game because they were such heavy favourites to win that Zrinjski. So that gives you an idea of how poor Virtus are. But at the same time, Zrinjski Mostar don't have a terrible record in Europe. I was looking at it, and only once in the last 16 European qualifier ties have they lost both legs of a European qualifier. So that goes to show you that they can compete, especially at home. And 2 of those ties were against Slovan in the last kind of 4 or 5 years. So yeah, there's a team there that they can definitely upset the odds, especially in Mostar. But I do like Slovan. 4-0 from the first leg is too big a gap. Again, how long does that Zrinjski spirit last? How long do they make it difficult for the Slovan side? And especially if they're kind of trying to win back the fans, trying to play for a bit of pride here, the game seems gone itself, then that will kind of open things up for Slovan a little bit. The way I'm going here is Tino Bet for Slovan at plus 100, even money. I just think if there's a chance that Zrinjski get a result, I don't see them beating the Slovan side. And I think for me, that's probably one of my safest bets, it has to be said, because I just think, they've demonstrated at Slovan. I guess there's that risk that they take the foot off the gas a little bit, but the fact that Zrinjski could only beat Virtus 2-1 is a worrying sign for them. And I think informs where I'm going with this one.
Yeah, good points. Bratislava to win 2-0 says RHM is at 3.4 to 1. Take that one. If he likes under 2.5 goals in the Slovan Bratislava game, Stephen Lynn saying 4-5-6 to 0, talking about the Red Star game, is plus 175 if you cover all of those scorelines. Sometimes it's nice to Dutch those scorelines. It can work in your favour. There are 3 conference qualifiers today. Myself and Rory were texting today. We had to sort of Google where Iberia are from. I thought we got Rory on specifically to talk about Iberia in 1999, then realised that we were from Georgia. We've got Diffidonga against the New Saints, but we've both got a little bit of a lean, I think, in the Inter Ljubljana game, Inter Olimpija game, the Andorran side, who have surprised a little bit here because they did beat FCSB in the return leg, even though they got knocked out of the Champions League qualifiers because of a second leg defeat. They're interesting at plus 250. Olimpija are plus 102. The first leg, didn't watch it, but the scoreline suggests it was fairly wild, 4-2 for Olimpija. All of Inter's games, incidentally, in the qualifiers have gone over 2.5, 2 of the 3 over 3.5. However, Olimpija failed to score the last 3 away in European qualifiers, and 6 of their last 7 have gone under. I've got sneak for unders at -107, but it is a lean rather than anything more concrete than that. Rory, what's your thoughts on Inter Escaldes against Olimpija Ljubljana?
Yeah, I've got a little bit more faith in Olimpija. Inter, to be fair, have been very impressive. To lose 4-3 on aggregate to FCSB, historically great kind of European team in the kind of 80s and 90s, won a European Cup. That's no small feat, and that's a pretty big scalp, even if they did go out. But yes, I think both teams to score here is kind of my main kind of bit to work off, and then you start adding things to get on that parlay and get a little bit of value here. I like Olimpija to win or tie this game. I think even though they did get that scalp against Bucharest, I just feel that Inter will be they'll have a little bit more confidence. And also another factor to play into this, they were 2-0 up in that first leg. They went 2-0 up. Olimpija came back, and in the space of about 15 minutes, turned that game around, went 3-2 up. And he's not priced on Bet Rivers just now. But if you can get him elsewhere, or even if watch for the in-play, if Diogo Costa comes up, he got 3 goals and an assist last week after coming on just after half-time. So yeah, keep an eye out for Diogo Costa. If he starts, obviously that kind of makes a bit of a difference to them as well from the looks of it. I think Olimpija will make their way through this tie. The fact that they've got 2 goals to play with takes the tension away a little bit for them. And Inter, as we can see, scored 5 goals in their 3 games so far. They have a bit of a free-flowing kind of attacking outlook to what they're trying to do. So I think goals here, it seems that Inter are going to be the exception to the rule that bucks the trend of these unders. So yeah, Olimpija to tie or win, plus both teams to score on the parlay. That's at -108 last I checked, and yeah, I like goals in this one.
That's the conference qualifier. I'll be taking a look at a Brazilian game just before we power down. That is Gremio in action against Fortaleza. RHM says, any thoughts on the League Cup games in America, specifically LAFC game and the New York City game? Yeah, it's MLS versus Liga MX, isn't it? I think they're difficult games to predict. If anyone in the comments has got a selection for RHM, then pass it on. It's not something that I've looked at, but it is something relatively new. Is it the 3rd season of the League's Cup now in America, something like that? Because we've got Rory on the show, we're going to give everyone a little bit of a sneak peek into what La Liga might look like coming up for the 25-26 season. We get underway in a few weeks' time. The market looks like this. Real Madrid are the minus money favourites, as you can see here. -134. Barcelona, the defending champions, at +110. Atleti are 8-1. We can sort of forget the rest. Rory, what's the general feeling with Real Madrid and Barcelona this season? Barca winning the title last year. Real Madrid have invested with Trent Alexander-Arnold and also with Housen, the Bournemouth centre-half, for a lot of money. Barcelona haven't done too much business that I can see, rather than bring in Marcus Rashford. If you were, betting now, would you give Real Madrid the nod or Barcelona the nod? Are you going to wait until the transfer window's done and dusted and see whoever Barcelona bring in? What's the sort of vibe in Spain with these two? I mean, it's almost a pick-em contest, but Real Madrid are the favourites.
Yeah, I think in that order for now, for me, remains the way to go. Real Madrid are priced about right. I think all of these sides are going to improve this summer, which is interesting because it's not often you say that. But I think Joan Garcia is the goalkeeper that they brought in. He was probably the best goalkeeper in Spain for Barcelona. He's come in. He's going to replace Ter Stegen. I think Barcelona probably not as many things are going to go right for them as they did last season. A lot went right for them, and they did very well. Rashford is a bonus, but I think Real Madrid will be much better than they were last season. That said, there's still holes in their side. I think they've improved. Housen, Alexander-Arnold, Carreras, the left back from Benfica. Those are the 3 signings that they've made. But the big improvement is going to come from Xabi Alonso. After 4 years, a fresh voice, a fresh kind of motivator really helps, I think, for Real Madrid. So I think Real Madrid, I think their chances of winning the Champions League have gone down. I think the chances of winning the La Liga have gone up exponentially under Alonso, who's a manager that will seek more consistency and maybe less of a kind of game-by-game approach as to how do we win this game, but how do we build a kind of style and an identity. So yeah, I think the prices are kind of accurate, it has to be said. For in Spain, to give you kind of a flavour of what's happening here, the big story has been Atleti, who have invested big again for a second
Again, I
summer
mean, they
in a
did
row.
last year, didn't they, Rory? I mean, I bet them last year, and they let me down. They sort of looked like they were going to challenge, and then they had a sort of barren run where they didn't win in about 4 or 5. But I mean, they've gone in again, haven't they? They've spent money.
Yeah, big time. And Johnny Cardozo is a player that Diego Simeone has been asking for a long time. Alex Baena, for me, the best creator in Spain for the last 2 years. If you average it out over those 2 years, they've brought in Thiago Almada as well. They've brought in Ruggeri, left back. So they are really trying to kind of change things at Atleti. And it seems that there's a little bit more ambition than there was in recent years. And it's not slated against Atleti. You obviously invest to the limits of your budget, but certainly they've gone big 2 summers in a row now. I think it will close the gap. I think Atleti weren't far off it last season, but as I said, I mean, I think I expect both Barcelona and Real Madrid to improve. If Atleti were competing against Barcelona and Real Madrid from this past season, I think your bet might have come in, Dan, because I think they're going to be better. But I think the fact that Barcelona, I don't see having that run. There was about 6-7 games, if you remember, in November, December, where they couldn't win a game. And didn't matter who it was against. It was against Las Palmas, it was against Valladolid. They just struggled. I don't think that will happen again. And as I say, in Real Madrid, I think will just be more consistent. And I think Alonso, again, as I say, the ceiling of Real Madrid remains to be seen. But I think what he'll give them is a lot more answers to deal with those kind of sides at the bottom of the table, away from home, that make life difficult. So yeah, that's kind of where my thinking's at.
And just briefly, before we move on, I mean, Effie says Real Betis to finish in the top 4 at plus 300 is his idea, maybe, of a value play. I mean, Athletic Club, of course, did brilliantly, and obviously they don't sign players, sort of, because they all come from the youth academy, unless they can nick them from Real Sociedad, I guess, or at least players that have played maybe for one of those Basque teams before. But they are pretty sure, as you can see, to finish in the top 4 plus 175. Nico Williams, I guess, has put pen to paper, hasn't he, for a new deal. That's big for them. I mean, who do you see nicking 4th spot? Is there any value in Real Betis? What about Athletic Club? What about Villarreal? La Real, of course, have lost Zubimendi to Arsenal and seem to get stripped of the best players summer by summer. Any thoughts on sort of top 4, best of the rest?
Yeah, I'd be fading Real Sociedad. I think the Zubimendi thing, you couple that with the fact that Imanol Alguacil, who was a long-term manager, very successful, but has moved on. We've got kind of a bit of an unknown prospect in their B team manager, Sergio Diaz. So yeah, fade Real Sociedad for top 4, I think, is my look right now. Between those 3, Athletic, Villarreal and Betis, it's a bit of a toss-up right now, because I think if you look to last season, that was the order that they finished as well. There was not that many points between the 3 of them, and Betis's kind of run towards the end was influenced by the fact that they went far in the Conference League. Athletic Club, similarly, the fact that they went out of, or they went far in Europe as well, that kind of impacted them a lot. And Villarreal didn't have any European competition at all. That said, I do expect Villarreal to kind of improve again, because they were still a little bit inconsistent. But yeah, I think there's a lot of uncertainty in those three teams in particular. It will depend on what they're doing in Europe, what they're doing in the cup competitions, and what they decide to prioritize come January, February, when the fixture list starts to really build up.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, if it's a sort of each of 3, then Effie, Real Betis at plus 300 might be the play there. That's Spain. Of course, we'll have more from Rory over the course of the season when it comes to the action in Spain. I presume, I don't know if you've done it actually. Have you looked at La Liga for the newsletter at all, Rory?
A little bit. I think we were backing Mbappe to be top goal scorer again, which, I mean, if he had a bad season and still finished top goal scorer by about 5 goals. So that tells you just how good he is. I think I backed Real Madrid as well. The one pick that we did have with Steve last time out was Alaves to go down on my outside pick. I think they were priced at about 200, 250. They're my value pick to go down.
One more game to look at before we get Rory's best bet at the Champions League qualifiers. We have got a little bit of Brazilian action a little later on tonight. This is Gremio against Fortaleza. This is an interesting one. 14th versus 18th, only 3 points between the two. Both in poor form according to the results. Gremio without a win in 6. They've also been knocked out the Copa Sudamericana by the Peruvian side Alianza Lima. Fortaleza did win their last game against Red Bull, but prior to that were winless in 9 in all competitions and endured a run of 5 straight defeats. Gremio plus 100. There has been money for Gremio here. Fortaleza are plus 300, 3-1 now. The tie at plus 215. A lot of that form is factored into the prices, as is the fact that Gremio are decent at home in terms of they don't get beat. They've only been beaten once on their own patch in 12 games in all competitions, and that was to league leaders Flamengo. Half of the games, though, have been drawn, and Fortaleza yet to win away from home this season. They've lost their last 3, but again, they have drawn 6 of 10. I think what's not necessarily factored into the price completely, although if Gremio did go minus money, they would be off my list, but I'm going to bet them at evens. They have won only 3 of their last 8. However, in 7 of their last 8, they have registered more XG than their opponents. Any regression for Gremio would be upwards, and they did win the last meeting between the two. Martin Braithwaite's just signed a new contract. Interestingly, they have signed Carlos Vinicius, who came last week. He didn't play at the weekend. And he probably won't play today because he's not played since April. He was at Fulham last year. He played the grand total of 17 minutes of football for the first team in England last season. He had a loan spell at Spurs, has scored some goals in various places in Europe. He's gone back to Brazil. I suspect they will parade him in front of the crowd tonight. So there might be a little bit of a feel-good feeling. They will know that against a side that's in the relegation zone, they are expected to win. Their expected goals numbers are better than their bare form. I think at even money, it's about fair. And also look out for Gustavo Martins Santos to register a shot on target. He's a defender. He's played at right back for most of this season, but he's also played centre half. He's started 7 games in all competitions in 2025. He's had 7 shots on target. He's had a shot on target in 5 of those 7 games. It's a relatively small sample size, but all shot on target bets generally are. But if you're getting plus 280 to get 1 or more shot on target, then that will do for me. He scored twice, as we mentioned, 2 in his last 3. 1 was a header. Tend to think that Fortaleza, who only have 43% possession away from home in Serie A this season, it'll be a low block. There might be a few set pieces. He might be able to get on the end of one. So I think at plus 280... over 0.5 shots on target. So just 1 shot on target we need from Gustavo Martins Santos. That's a little bit of a lean along with Gremio to win at even money. In terms of where the money's been going, 92% of the money, 84% of the tickets have come on Gremio. Most of the money has come on the unders. The under 2.5 goals market has hit in each of Gremio's last 6 Serie A home matches. That is a lot from myself and Rory. Make sure you sign up to the newsletter if you haven't already. We get an awful lot of people watching the show, a lot of subscribers as well, over 10,000 these days. bettingweeklystudios.com. You will get the insider, you get the newsletter, plenty of picks from all of the cappers. Rory contributes regularly as well, so lots to look forward to in your inbox, and it is free. Last thought from Rory. We talked about the Champions League qualifiers and indeed the conference qualifier as well. We've put up 5 or 6 leans a piece on the show. What would be your best bet, Rory, when it comes to the action tonight?
My gut feeling is that Slovan to get a result against Zrinjski, but at 1-16 is keeping me just about to off it enough. So Copenhagen on the Asian handicap, minus 1.5 at plus 118 to beat Drita by 2 goals.
Great stuff. I'm going to play Red Star on the Asian line at -3. So a 3-0 win is a push. 4 or more, we have cashed that ticket around about -125. It's minus money, but I think it's one of the safest bets, one of the best bets of the day. Rory, thanks for your company. Still to come today. The tennis is Rory Jawani and Nigel Seeley. Mr. Seeley has been in fantastic form, so make sure you hang around for that. We've got the hardball with Adam and Chris, and fast break, Sarah and Albert will be in the chair. Doug incidentally hit a plus 480 prop that dead heated, so plus 240 winner from Doug yesterday. Make sure you stay with us for all of the Major League Baseball and the NBA action and analysis as well. I will be back tomorrow with Will White, more Champions League qualifiers to take a look at. From myself though, and from Rory, it is Goodbye. Good luck with your bets this evening.